It all began on a sunless world of endless stone, a realm of cliffs, crags, and barren horizons. The Galactic Empress of Avalaneth stood atop a weathered plateau, her translucent form shimmering faintly in the thin atmosphere. A collection of advisors and high-ranking dignitaries formed a loose circle around her, each one wary of the Terran envoy standing just a few paces away. Alexander Kane adjusted his jacket, his face calm, though his grip on the small data tablet at his side betrayed a hint of tension. He had prepared for weeks for this encounter, but no amount of rehearsal could truly prepare him for meeting Avalaneth. Her presence was both serene and unyielding, her eyes, if one could call them eyes, shifting pools of soft light that seemed to study him from every angle at once. "Mr. Kane," she began, her voice resonating in the air like a faint melody. "Your people's determination is noteworthy. Few species have requested a direct audience with me so soon after joining the galactic stage." Kane cleared his throat, choosing his words carefully. "Thank you, Your Excellency. It's not determination alone that brings us here, though. Humanity is eager to learn from those who came before us. We don't claim to have all the answers, but we believe in building mutual understanding." Avalaneth's gaze shifted to one of her advisors, a tall, crystalline being who emitted faint clicks and hums. The advisor hesitated before speaking in a language of light and sound. The Empress nodded, then turned back to Kane. "And yet you seek direct access to our most guarded archives, do you not?" she asked, her tone light yet pointed. "There are those who would call that audacious." Kane allowed a faint smile. "Perhaps it is, but I believe audacity can be the first step toward progress." Avalaneth tilted her head slightly, a gesture that might have been amusement. "You speak well, Terran, but words alone do not reveal the character of a species. Tell me this, why should I trust your people to use what you learn responsibly?" Kane took a slow breath, meeting her luminous gaze without flinching. "Because we understand what's at stake. Earth is young compared to your empire, and we've made our share of mistakes. But we've also learned that true growth only comes through cooperation. We're not here to exploit. We're here to contribute, to find a place where we can grow alongside others." The Empress regarded him for a long moment, then gestured for one of her attendants to step forward. The attendant, a figure draped in flowing metallic fabric, handed her a small, ornate device. Avalaneth studied it briefly before addressing Kane again. "Very well. I will grant your request partially. You may access a limited selection of our archives, under strict supervision. Consider it a test of your people's intent." "Understood," Kane replied. "We won't let you down." Avalaneth's voice softened slightly. "I hope not, Mr. Kane, for both our sakes." The meeting concluded, the advisors dispersing as Kane found himself alone once more on the plateau. As he looked out over the jagged landscape, the sense of accomplishment was tempered by the knowledge of how much work lay ahead. Yet, for the first time since arriving in this vast, alien empire, he felt a spark of genuine hope. In the weeks that followed their initial meeting, Alexander Kane's presence at the Imperial Court drew both curiosity and unease. Among the Empress's advisors and officials, whispers about the Terran envoy's boldness spread quickly. Avalaneth herself, though, seemed intrigued rather than concerned. While she remained the ever-distant figure of galactic authority, she took the opportunity to learn more about humanity through conversations that were both unexpectedly candid and refreshingly direct. One evening, Avalaneth summoned Kane to the Chamber of Resonance, a sprawling, crystalline hall designed to enhance both sound and light. He arrived to find not just the Empress, but a handful of her trusted aides, including Severic, a senior diplomat known for his cold pragmatism, and Thalen, the head of the Imperial Exploratory Fleet. These were individuals who rarely appeared together, and their presence suggested something more significant than mere trade discussions. "Mr. Kane," Avalaneth greeted him as he entered, her voice ringing softly in the chamber. "Your insights have intrigued me. I wish to learn more about your people, your history, and your methods of navigation through the stars." Kane approached cautiously, nodding in respect. "I'm honored, Your Excellency. I'll do my best to answer any questions you have." Severic stepped forward, his elongated form shimmering faintly. "Humans are a young species by galactic standards," he said, his tone clipped. "Why do you think your kind has achieved such rapid advancement?" Kane hesitated. I'd say it's a mix of necessity and ingenuity. Earth has faced its share of challenges: resource scarcity, environmental changes, social conflicts. These pressures forced us to innovate, to adapt quickly. When we finally reached the stars, we brought that same drive with us. Avarilanath tilted her head slightly as if considering his words. Necessity, yes. But I sense there's more to it. What motivates your people, truly? Is it survival alone? Not just survival, Kane said, meeting her gaze. Curiosity, I think, is just as important. We've always had this urge to explore, to understand the unknown. It's not just about staying alive, it's about finding out what's out there, learning from it, and growing as a result. Thalon, the fleet commander, leaned forward. Your exploratory vessels, how do they compare to ours? Surely you don't expect us to believe that a species as young as yours has achieved parity with the Imperial fleet. Kane smirked faintly. I wouldn't claim that. Your fleet's capabilities are well known and, frankly, impressive. But I think you'll find that humans have a knack for improvisation. We might not have the same level of technology yet, but we've learned to be resourceful, finding unconventional solutions to problems. That's a strength in its own way. Avarilanath interjected. Resourcefulness is valuable indeed. Yet it often comes with risk. Your people's tendency to act swiftly, even recklessly, concerns some within my court. Kane straightened. I understand that concern. But I'd argue that it's precisely that willingness to take risks that allows us to achieve so much so quickly. We're not reckless for its own sake, we're just willing to step into the unknown when we believe it's worth the potential reward. Severik gave a low hum, clearly skeptical. And what if those risks lead to conflict? How can we be sure that your kind won't one day see this empire as a threat to overcome rather than a partner to work with? Kane's expression hardened slightly. If humans were here to start a fight, I wouldn't be standing here in a chamber with some of the most powerful figures in the galaxy. We came to learn, to share, to find common ground. I won't pretend every human is perfect, we have our flaws, like any species. But I believe the majority of us just want to be part of something bigger, something that benefits everyone. Avarilanath seemed to study him closely, her light shifting in subtle patterns. Your words carry conviction, Mr. Kane. I will admit that I find your perspective refreshing. But words alone will not be enough to earn trust. I will need more than promises. Then let us show you, Kane said. Give us a chance to demonstrate what we're capable of, not just as explorers, but as partners. Whatever trial or test you think would be fair, we'll rise to it. The Empress exchanged a glance with her aides before turning back to him. Very well, Mr. Kane. You shall have your chance. Prepare yourself, this is only the beginning. With that, the audience ended. Kane left the chamber, his mind racing with possibilities. He knew that the road ahead would be anything but easy, but he felt more determined than ever to prove that humanity could earn its place among the stars. Chapter 3: Navigating Uncharted Territories. Kane stepped into the glass-walled observatory, gazing out at the swirling nebula that hung like a luminous veil in the void. His mind, however, wasn't on the stunning view, it was on the Empress's proposition. To prove humanity's worth, Avarilanath had invited Kane to join a small team on a critical mission. The task? Retrieve a long-lost piece of ancient technology from an uncharted region of space, a feat as much a test of trust as it was a demonstration of capability. He wasn't alone in this venture. Two others had been assigned to the mission: Thalon, the grizzled head of the Imperial Exploratory Fleet, and Torin, a brash, human pilot from Kane's own delegation. The dynamic promised to be complicated. Thalon clearly saw this as an opportunity to maintain the Empire's dominance, while Torin was there to ensure humanity's resourcefulness didn't go unnoticed. And then there was Kane, caught in the middle, trying to balance diplomacy and the need to prove his species' worth without overstepping boundaries. Are you ready for this, Kane? Torin's voice broke through his thoughts. The pilot was leaning casually against the observatory's railing, his boyish grin contrasting sharply with the situation's gravity. Do I have a choice? Kane asked, half joking. He shook his head. I'm ready. Just not sure how we'll handle Thalon. He doesn't exactly seem thrilled about us being here. Torin smirked. Thalon? He's a hard case, sure, but you don't get to his rank by being stupid. He knows this mission needs us just as much as we need him. Before Kane could respond, the door slid open with a faint hiss and Thalon entered. His imposing presence immediately shifted the room's atmosphere. The alien commander's silver, armored skin caught the light from the nebula, making him seem even more unyielding than usual. We depart in 2 hours, Thalon said without preamble. His voice carried a mechanical edge, a result of the translator device he wore. I trust you two have reviewed the mission parameters? Kane nodded. We've gone over the details. We're as ready as we'll ever be. Thalon stepped closer, towering over both men. Understand this, Terrans, this is not a rescue operation. We are retrieving an artifact of immense importance to the Empire. Any deviation from the plan will not be tolerated. Am I clear? Crystal, Torin replied, not even attempting to mask his sarcasm. Kane shot him a warning glance. We understand. We'll follow your lead, Commander. Thalin's luminous eyes narrowed. Good. If you falter, I won't hesitate to leave you behind. The tension hung heavy as Thalin left the room. Torin let out a low whistle. Charming guy. But hey, at least we know where we stand. Kane sighed. Let's just focus on the mission. If we can get through this without incident, it'll go a long way toward proving what humanity can do. The ship they boarded was sleek and heavily modified, a hybrid of Imperial engineering and human ingenuity. The journey to the uncharted sector was fraught with hazards, collapsing wormholes, magnetic storms, and the occasional encounter with unregistered vessels that weren't as friendly as they claimed. Through it all, the three maintained a tenuous alliance, each relying on the other's expertise to navigate the perils. One particularly harrowing moment came when their ship was caught in a gravity well. The hull groaned under the strain, alarms blaring as the vessel struggled to escape. Cut the engines and shift power to the stabilizers. Torin shouted, his hands flying over the controls. That's counterintuitive. Thalin snapped, but before he could issue a command, Kane stepped in. Trust him. It worked in a similar situation on Earth. Just do it. After a tense moment, Thalin relented. Torin's maneuver worked, freeing them from the well's grip. The ship steadied, and for the first time, Thalin offered a grudging nod. Perhaps there is merit in your methods, Terrans. Torin grinned. You're welcome. Kane couldn't help but smile. The three of them still had a long way to go, but that small acknowledgement felt like a step forward. Their mission was far from over, but as the ship pushed deeper into uncharted space, Kane began to feel that their collaboration, uneasy as it was, might just succeed. Chapter 4, Through the Rifts. Kane and Torin stood shoulder to shoulder in the ship's narrow observation corridor, watching as the distorted space of the rift sector stretched and twisted beyond the transparent hull. Stars blurred into long streaks of light, bending around gravitational anomalies that no navigation chart could predict. The region had been abandoned centuries ago, written off as too unstable even for the Empire's advanced explorers. Now it fell to them to find their way through. I'll say this, Torin muttered, adjusting his jacket as the ship shuddered from another sudden shift in gravity. It's not exactly the welcoming committee I was hoping for. Kane smirked. What, you didn't think this would be a luxury cruise? Call me old-fashioned, but I was hoping for a bit less of the getting crushed by a collapsing space pocket vibe. Their banter was cut short as Thalin's voice came over the comm system. Kane, Torin, report to the control deck. We're approaching the first marked anomaly. Kane gave Torin a pointed look. See? Nothing to worry about. Just the first marked anomaly. Torin shrugged, following him down the corridor. Great. Only 70 more to go. When they reached the control deck, Thalin was already in place, his silver-plated form shimmering under the ambient light of the console screens. He didn't look up as they entered, his attention locked on the swirling data projections before him. We're within range of the gravitational cluster, Thalin said. We'll need to navigate it manually. The autopilot systems can't account for the instability. Manual controls? On this? Torin let out a low whistle. Guess we'll find out how good we really are. Thalin finally glanced up, his tone sharp. This is no time for theatrics. A single mistake could collapse the entire corridor, trapping us in this sector indefinitely. You must remain focused. Kane stepped forward. All right, what's the plan? The anomaly cluster creates a series of gravity wells that constantly shift positions. We need to plot a course in real time based on their movements. You'll handle the data input, Thalin said, nodding toward Kane. Torin, you'll be at the helm. And I will monitor the gravimetric readouts. Torin raised a skeptical brow. So I fly, you tell me when I'm about to crash, and Kane types numbers into a console. Got it. Keep that attitude, pilot, and I'll have you reassigned to janitorial duty, Thalin snapped. Kane raised a hand to diffuse the tension. All right, let's just get through this without killing each other. Everyone ready? Torin grinned as he slid into the pilot's seat. Ready as I'll ever be. As the ship entered the cluster, the entire vessel groaned under the strain. The sensors lit up with chaotic readings, gravity wells forming and dissipating in an unpredictable dance. Adjust heading 2 degrees to port, Thalin ordered. 2 degrees? You sure about that? Torin called back. Do you intend to question every instruction? Kane tapped rapidly on his console, recalculating the route. It looks good, Torin. Trust it. Torin muttered under his breath but complied. The The ship's engines flared, shifting their trajectory just enough to slip between two converging wells. The view outside was a maelstrom of light and distortion, stars twisting into kaleidoscopic patterns before snapping back into place. Next adjustment, 3 degrees starboard, then drop velocity by 5%, Thalen continued, his calm demeanor unshaken. Torrin's hands moved across the controls. Got it. Making the shift now. Kane watched the data streams shift, aligning with their new course. It's working, he said, more to himself than anyone else. Of course it's working, Thalen said without turning. Follow my orders and we'll get through this. Torrin rolled his eyes but stayed quiet. For several tense minutes, the ship navigated the chaotic cluster, each course adjustment bringing them closer to the other side. Kane continued to feed data into the system, ensuring that their path remained stable. As the final gravity well loomed ahead, Thalen issued the last set of instructions. 20 degrees starboard, full burn for 3 seconds, then cut to 50% power. Roger that, Torrin replied, his tone unusually serious. He followed the commands precisely, and the ship lurched forward, emerging from the cluster in one last surge. The shaking ceased. The view screen cleared. They were through. Thalen nodded, his expression unreadable. Adequate performance. Torrin leaned back in his seat, letting out a long breath. Adequate? We just threaded a needle through the galaxy's worst back alley and all I get is adequate. Kane chuckled. Take it as a compliment. Coming from him, that's practically glowing praise. Thalen turned toward them both, his tone flat. If you're done congratulating yourselves, prepare for the next phase. This was only the first obstacle. Torrin threw up his hands. Figures. We survived the impossible and he's already thinking about the next nightmare. Kane looked out at the calm expanse of space ahead and allowed himself a brief moment of relief. Let's just be glad we made it this far. One step at a time. Chapter 5. The artifact. The first sight of the derelict station took Kane's breath away. A latticework of golden alloys gleamed faintly under the light of a distant sun, its sprawling arms stretching into the void like the skeletal remains of some ancient starbound creature. From his seat in the cockpit, he couldn't tell whether it was beautiful, terrifying, or a strange mixture of both. Big, Torrin muttered from the pilot's chair, breaking the silence. He leaned forward, studying the structure through the thick reinforced viewport. I mean, I knew it would be big, but that's something else. Bigger than anything Terran built, Kane agreed, his voice low. And probably older than anything we've ever seen. Behind them, Thalen stood with his arms crossed, his expression unreadable. Size is irrelevant. The artifact we are here for is buried in its central core. What matters is extracting it without destabilizing the entire station. Speaking of which, Kane said, glancing back at the alien commander, how sure are we that this place won't just fall apart when we dock? Thalen's silver skin caught the light as he turned to Kane. Sure enough that we are proceeding. If you have doubts, Terran, I suggest you address them quickly. Torrin flashed a grin, hands already moving over the controls. No doubts here. We just need to find a spot to set down. It took them another half-hour to locate a stable docking point. The station had no active lights, no apparent energy signatures beyond a faint hum in the background radiation. It was a miracle it hadn't been completely lost to time and the shifting forces of the rift sector. The landing was smooth, a testament to Torrin's skill as a pilot. When the ship powered down, the silence that followed felt almost oppressive. The three of them gathered in the airlock, checking their equipment before stepping into the unknown environment. Tive. The station's integrity may be holding for now, but it will not last forever. Torrin tightened the straps on his harness and smirked at Kane. So, what's the over-under on running into something nasty in there? Kane shot him a look. Let's not jinx it before we even get started. The airlock doors hissed open, revealing a dimly lit corridor. The walls were covered in strange, flowing patterns that shimmered faintly under their suit lights. As they moved deeper into the station, the atmosphere shifted. The structure felt alive, almost as if it were aware of their presence. This place gives me the creeps, Torrin said under his breath. It's too quiet. Keep moving, Thalen ordered, his own weapon held at the ready. They reached the central core after what felt like hours of navigating the labyrinthine hallways. The core was a massive, spherical chamber, its walls lined with intricate panels that pulsed faintly with light. At the chamber's center, suspended in a web of delicate golden filaments, was the artifact, a small, multifaceted device that seemed to shimmer and shift as they approached. That's it, Thalen said. He stepped forward, his expression intense. The artifact of Vecker. A relic from the time before the Empire's founding. If this device still functions, he didn't finish the thought. Instead, he turned to Kane. I trust you understand what's at stake. This must be extracted carefully. Kane nodded. I'll handle the extraction. Torin, you monitor the scanner. Let me know if anything changes, structural integrity, radiation spikes, anything. On it, Torin replied, taking his place at a nearby console. Kane took a deep breath and approached the artifact. The golden filaments seemed to shift slightly as he reached out, his gloves brushing against the strange material. With a steady hand, he began to disconnect the delicate threads one by one, his movements slow and deliberate. Status, he asked as he worked. Everything's stable so far, Torin said, though his voice carried a note of tension. Thalon watched in silence, his focus entirely on the artifact. When the last filament was disconnected, Kane carefully lifted the device free, holding it up to the light. The chamber seemed to dim for a moment, as if the station itself was reacting to the artifact's removal. We've got it, Kane said. Let's get out of here before something goes wrong. Agreed, Thalon said. Move quickly. This structure is ancient and the integrity will not hold for long. As they retraced their steps, the station's faint hum grew louder, resonating through the walls. By the time they reached their ship, the corridor lights were flickering and the vibrations underfoot made the urgency of their departure clear. Torin rushed to the cockpit, powering up the engines while Kane and Thalon secured the artifact in the containment unit. The ship roared to life, and moments later, they were lifting off. From the safety of orbit, they watched as the station's once solid structure began to collapse inward, its age and instability finally catching up with it. That was too close, Torin said, his hands still on the controls. But hey, we did it. Kane looked at the artifact, safely encased in its containment field. We did. Now let's see what it's capable of. Chapter 6, The Alignment. Kane stood in the containment chamber, staring at the artifact now housed within a shimmering energy field. The device's surface shifted like liquid glass, refracting the pale blue glow of the chamber's lighting. As impressive as the artifact looked, its true value remained a mystery. They had risked everything to retrieve it, but understanding what it could do and how it might shape the future was the next step. So what now? Torin asked, leaning casually against the control panel at the room's entrance. We just stare at it until it does something? Kane sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. We need to analyze it, figure out how to interact with it safely. Rushing in could trigger something we're not ready for. And by we, you mean you and the commander? Torin smirked. Because I'm more of a point me in the right direction kind of guy. Before Kane could respond, the chamber doors slid open and Thalon entered. The alien commander's expression was as stern as ever, his gleaming silver skin catching the light. He approached the artifact slowly, his eyes narrowing as he studied its ever-shifting surface. This is no ordinary relic, Thalon said. Its energy signatures are unlike anything in the Empire's archives. It predates most known civilizations. Kane folded his arms. That's exactly why we need to be careful. We have no idea what kind of mechanisms or safeguards it might have. The last thing we want is for it to destabilize here. I trust you understand the stakes, Terran, Thalon said without looking at him. If this device is what we suspect, it could change the balance of power in the galaxy. Every decision we make now will have consequences. I get that, Kane replied evenly. But those consequences won't mean much if we blow ourselves up trying to unlock its secrets. Thalon turned to face him, his expression unreadable. What do you propose? We start with non-invasive scans, Kane said. Map its energy output, look for patterns in the way it shifts. We gather as much data as we can before attempting any direct interface. Thalon inclined his head slightly. Very well. Begin the scans. I will oversee the process. As the technicians started their work, Kane found himself standing near Torin, who was watching the proceedings with a mixture of boredom and curiosity. You really think this thing's going to make that big of a difference? Torin asked quietly. I don't know, Kane admitted. But if it does, I'd rather be the ones who understand it first. Torin smirked. Fair enough. Just don't let the shiny guy over there boss you around too much. Kane gave a short laugh. Noted. The initial scans revealed more questions than answers. The artifact emitted pulses of energy that defied known physics, fluctuating in ways that suggested it was interacting with the very fabric of space-time. As the hours wore on, Thalon's demeanor shifted from stoic to contemplative, his sharp gaze fixed on the readings. This is no simple technology, Thalon muttered, more to himself than anyone else. It aligns with certain theories proposed by our most ancient scholars, concepts of harmonic convergence, universal constants. Kane raised an eyebrow. Harmonic convergence? You mean it's syncing up with some kind of universal frequency? Thalon nodded slowly. If these readings are accurate, the artifact may be capable of influencing the fundamental forces that govern existence. It's as if it's tuning itself to a cosmic scale. Torin leaned against the console, raising a skeptical brow. So what, we have a fancy tuning fork for the universe? What's the point of that? The point, Thalen said sharply, is that such power could be used to stabilize entire star systems, to create energy fields impervious to even the most advanced weapons, or to open pathways across galaxies. The applications are beyond your comprehension. Kane stepped in before the conversation could escalate. Let's keep our focus. If it really can do all that, we need to know how to control it. Otherwise, it's just another risk. Thalen nodded curtly. Agreed. Continue the scans. We must understand every facet of this device before taking any further action. The hours stretched into days as the team worked tirelessly. Kane and Torin took turns monitoring the data while Thalen coordinated with the Empire's top scientists and historians. The artifact's secrets were slowly revealed, piece by piece, each discovery hinting at the immense potential within its shifting form. As they worked, Kane found himself reflecting on how far they'd come. From the tense negotiations at the Empress's court to this moment, standing on the brink of something that could reshape their understanding of the universe. Whatever came next, one thing was certain: their journey was far from over. Chapter 7: The Revelation. The analysis of the artifact had become an all-consuming effort, and the small team aboard the Imperial vessel spent every waking hour either poring over data or debating next steps. By now, Kane, Torin, and Thalen had developed a working rhythm, though tensions still simmered beneath the surface. Torin's irreverent remarks often clashed with Thalen's no-nonsense demeanor, while Kane found himself playing mediator more often than not. So, Torin began, leaning back in his chair and tossing a data tablet onto the console. We've scanned it, we've mapped it, and we've poked at it every which way. When do we actually find out what it does? Kane glanced up from his own station. When we're sure we won't blow ourselves up trying to find out. Right, because safety first, Torin muttered. Never mind that we're sitting on what might be the most important piece of tech in the galaxy. Let's just keep running tests until we die of old age. Thalen's metallic voice cut through the chatter. Impatience will accomplish nothing. If the device is what I suspect, it cannot be rushed. Even a minor error could render it useless, or worse. Torin rolled his eyes. Sure. Let's let Mr. Sunshine here dictate the pace. Because nothing says trustworthy like the guy who still hasn't explained why he knows so much about this thing. Kane stood, stepping between them. All right, that's enough. Torin, focus on the new scan data. Thalen, if there's something you haven't told us, now's the time. Thalen's gaze shifted, his silver features unreadable. What I know is based on Imperial records that predate my service. The artifact's energy patterns match theoretical models proposed by the ancient Vekker scholars. Models that describe devices capable of harmonizing gravitational fields, stabilizing star systems, and even bending spacetime. Kane frowned. You're saying it's more than just a piece of old tech. It's, what, a universal stabilizer? Potentially, Thalen replied, if it can be activated and controlled. But the risks are considerable. Misuse could disrupt entire sectors of space. Torin snorted. So basically, it's the galaxy's biggest tuning fork. Great. Real helpful. It's more than that, Kane said, cutting in. If it works the way Thalen says, this thing could prevent natural disasters, end energy shortages, even make space travel safer and faster. Torin raised an eyebrow. And who gets to decide how it's used? The Empress? The Empire? Or do we, the plucky Terrans, get a say? Thalen straightened. This is not about politics. It is about ensuring that the artifact does not become a threat. Kane stepped closer to the artifact, watching the way its surface shimmered with shifting colors. I think we're asking the wrong question. Before we worry about who controls it, we need to figure out how it even works. Otherwise, it's all speculation. Torin sighed, pushing himself out of his chair. Fine. But if we spend another week staring at this thing without making progress, I'm calling it quits. Kane allowed himself a small grin. Deal. They spent the next several hours running a new series of tests. This time, instead of passive scans, they introduced controlled energy pulses to see how the artifact reacted. It was slow, methodical work, but the results were fascinating. The artifact seemed to resonate in response, emitting a low-frequency hum that reverberated through the containment chamber. Something's changing, Kane said, watching the readings spike. It's aligning with the pulse we're sending. Thalen's gaze locked on the display. Increase the frequency. Slowly, Torin tapped a few keys, adjusting the controls. All right, but if it blows up, I'm blaming you. Kane monitored the artifact closely as the hum grew louder. The shimmering surface began to stabilize, its colors shifting into a more ordered pattern. Then, suddenly, the entire chamber filled with a soft, radiant light. It wasn't blinding, but it was enough to make them all pause. What just happened? Torin asked, his voice quieter now. The artifact responded, Thalen said, stepping closer. It's listening. Listening to what? Kane asked, feeling a shiver run down his spine. To us, Thalen replied. It's recognizing the energy pattern we provided. It's a form of communication. Torin whistled. Well, that's a little creepy, but also kind of cool. Kane looked at the artifact, his mind racing. If we can understand how it communicates, we can learn how to control it. We just need to be careful. Agreed, Thalen said. This is a critical breakthrough, but it's only the beginning. Torin stretched, glancing at the artifact one last time before turning back to his console. All right. I'll admit it, I'm impressed. But don't let it go to your head, Kane. You still have to figure out how to make this thing actually useful. Kane smiled faintly. One step at a time, Torin. One step at a time. Chapter 8, New Frontiers. Kane stood at the ship's main viewport, watching the artifact hover in its containment chamber. The once shifting colors of its surface had settled into a steady pulse of light, as if it were breathing in sync with the ship itself. In the weeks since their initial breakthrough, the small team had made significant progress in understanding its mechanisms, yet the true depth of its capabilities still eluded them. Torin approached, sipping from a steaming mug. You've been staring at that thing for hours, expecting it to start talking back. Not quite, Kane replied, glancing at him. Just trying to figure out the next step. We know it can align with energy patterns and even stabilize minor gravitational fluctuations, but if Thalen's right, it should be capable of much more. Torin smirked. Thalen's always right. Just ask him. The alien commander's voice came from the doorway before Kane could respond. If I thought you truly believed that, Torin, I might take it as a compliment. Torin turned, raising his mug in a mock toast. You're not exactly known for your modesty, Commander. Thalen's silver gaze shifted to the artifact. This is no time for flippancy. The artifact's behavior has stabilized, but we must determine its operational parameters. We need to know how far its influence extends. Kane nodded. We're running more tests tomorrow. Hopefully, we'll have a better idea of how it interacts with larger systems. Good, Thalen said, his voice steady. But be cautious. Pushing it too far too quickly could lead to unintended consequences. Torin leaned against the bulkhead, grinning. There it is. The daily reminder that we're one step away from disaster. Kane chuckled. And yet you're still here. Someone's gotta keep you two from getting too serious, Torin replied. The next day's experiments were more ambitious. With Thalen's approval, they simulated conditions that mimicked the gravitational forces of a small moon. The artifact responded as if it were aware of the changes, emitting a low, harmonic hum that spread throughout the ship. Kane adjusted the controls, watching as the device's energy field expanded slightly. It's stabilizing the simulation, he said, his voice filled with awe. The readings show a consistent gravitational balance. Thalen, standing just behind him, crossed his arms. We expected as much. Now reduce the simulated mass and observe the response. Kane nodded and adjusted the settings. The artifact's glow dimmed briefly, then returned, matching the new parameters with remarkable precision. It's like it's learning, Torin said from the pilot's chair. Every time we tweak the settings, it adapts faster. Is that normal for something this old? Thalen hesitated. Normal? No. But it is consistent with what the ancient records suggested. The Vekkar designed their devices to harmonize with the universe's natural frequencies. This artifact is doing exactly that. Kane stepped back, wiping his hands on his pants. If it can stabilize something as massive as a moon, what about an entire planet? Or a star system? That is the question, Thalen replied. One we must answer carefully. Later that evening, as the ship's lights dimmed for the night cycle, Kane and Torin found themselves alone in the mess hall. Torin was hunched over a bowl of something unappetizing, while Kane stared into his cup of recycled water. You ever think about what this means for Earth? Torin asked suddenly. If we actually figure this thing out? Kane blinked, pulled from his thoughts. You mean in terms of technology? I mean in terms of everything, Torin said, gesturing vaguely with his spoon. Imagine what we could do with this. No more fighting over resources. No more scrambling to keep the lights on. If this thing can stabilize star systems, we could fix Earth's biggest problems in a heartbeat. Kane leaned back, considering the idea. It's possible. But we're not there yet. And even if we get there, we'll have to convince everyone to use it responsibly. Responsibly, Torin repeated, a hint of sarcasm in his voice. Good luck with that. Kane sighed. I know it's a tall order, but we have to try. If we don't, this could just as easily become another weapon, another reason for people to fight. Torin stared into his bowl. Sometimes I wonder if it's worth it. All this effort, all the risks. What if it just ends up in the hands of someone who'll use it wrong? Kane met his gaze. That's exactly why we're doing this. So that when the time comes, we'll have the knowledge. And hopefully the influence to guide its use. Torin set his spoon down and nodded. Fair point. Guess we'd better not screw it up. They sat in silence for a while after that, each lost in their own thoughts. The artifact pulsed faintly in its chamber, a quiet reminder of the potential it held and the responsibility that came with it.